It is 6:30, and I am going to call the meeting to order, because as you know, one of the first orders of business is to reorganize this board and elect a new chair for the new year, and a new vice chair and a new secretary. Before I get to that, I just want to make a couple of quick, I'll say announcements. First, I'd like to welcome Linda back from Florida. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Hope you had a good winter.
It was pretty cold.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a ways of time down in the 20s.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Caused a lot of whining.
Well, welcome back.
My plants froze.
I'd also like to welcome Jason Carter, who is our newest alternate member. Welcome to the board, and we appreciate your willingness to step on and serve. And so we look forward to working with you. It's been a pleasure already getting to know you, and working with you as we've gotten to know you a little bit over the last few meetings. So welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to congratulate Bill Griffin, who is now a full member, and has also been designated as our representative to the CIP, which is a job that Dan Kiley was doing previously. So welcome to you. And last, I'd like to congratulate Nate Miller, who has been named the new executive director of the Southern New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Very, very excited about that. One of the things I'll talk about in just a little bit, when it's my turn to talk again, is I went to the planners conference and we got to see Nate's previous boss was honored for sort of a lifetime achievement, which was really cool. So congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
So the floor is now open for nominations for the role of chair of this board. And I will take nominations, and we will hopefully be able to elect a chair, and then I will turn it over to the chair, and then we'll elect the other two officers. So
I would like to nominate Dave Frecht.
okay, that's a nomination. Is there a second on this board?
Do we need seconds for board nominations?
I don't think we do.
I don't think we do.
I don't think we
You're
ever
right.
did seconds on nominations.
So
Well,
we'll handle it as a nomination and have a vote. Is there any other nominations, though?
I'd like to nominate Tim.
Whoa. No,
I don't believe you're a full member.
I looked at that, and it's really silence on board officers for alternates. I mean, it says I can't, as an alternate, I can't do motions on applications and things like that. But it's silence on nominating officers.
If it's
Well,
not a
first-
power that's expressly granted, then I don't think it exists.
Well,
So first of all,
Yeah.
will you accept if elected? Are you interested in the job?
I would accept.
Okay. How about you?
No.
No.
Thank
Okay.
you, Kurt.
Okay. That may clear that up. Any other nominations? All right. All those in favor of David Frecht for chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining. Did you have something?
Typically, they leave the room,
Oh. Okay. He can't vote for himself?
but sorry, he didn't seem to be there.
I abstained.
Okay. So I think we've got enough. 1, 2,
You have 6.
3, 4, 5, 6. So Dave Frecht, our chair, has so declared.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, Rob Taylor.
We didn't do attendance. I apologize for that.
Well,
We're all here,
we are all here.
except for Ben.
And when we get done with our slate, we can do attendance.
Okay.
How's that sound? We have 2 more positions to fill. The first one being the vice chair. Does anybody want to step up to the plate? Volunteer?
Wait. You are not asking for nominations?
I am asking
You
for,
said to step up to the
well,
plate.
I didn't hear anybody say that, so now I'm asking for nominations. Linda?
I would like to nominate Nate Miller.
Okay, Nate has been nominated. Is there anyone else? Any more nominations? Nominations are closed. All in favor of Nate Miller as vice chair, indicate by raising your hand.
You willing to do it?
Yeah, I'm willing to do it. I mean, I would have yielded if somebody else had a burning desire to be the vice chair, but happy to serve. Appreciate the board's confidence in me.
Okay. Nate, congratulations.
Well, thank
The
you.
vote is 6-0, with you abstaining.
Me abstaining, yes.
Next, we have the position of secretary. Nominations are open. I will nominate Tim Jennings.
Okay.
Are there any other nominations? All in favor of Tim Jennings for secretary, indicate by raising your hand.
Aye.
And say aye. All right. Tim, congratulations. You are again secretary. Vote is 6-0, and Tim abstained. Rob, you took my welcoming speech away.
Sorry.
Said exactly what I was going to say.
I read your mind. Yes.
You did, totally. So let's do attendance. Members present, from my left.
Andy Jones.
Eric Russell.
Nate Miller?
David Frack.
Tim Jennings.
Paul Bianco. Bill Griffin.
Kurt Barnhart, alternates.
Jason Carter, alternate.
Okay.
Bob Taylor,
Staff.
staff.
Okay. We have no hearings, we have no conceptuals. Eric, do you have a selectmen's report?
Sure. So we've actually had 2 meetings since our last one. The regularly scheduled Monday meeting, we talked about Crystal Lake Road and safety and speed. A lot of discussion around the drone policy, and we're getting very close to a final draft to present. Presumably at our next meeting, the final draft will be presented, but I think it'll be on that agenda. And I'd encourage people to review that when it is published. Had discussions around nonprofit tax exemptions, and actually I just came from an off-cycle meeting where we went through that. Town staff and the chair of the select board met with DRA to understand both some legal changes, some legal opinions from cases a few years ago, along with some law changes and changes in the uses of nonprofits in our town and how we should be applying all of that. And so now we have to go through and actually implement all of those changes. And then some small things. So finished up all the committee appointments for the year. I think we should all be very proud as a town. We have, I think every committee is actually full and with alternates, which there was not that many years ago when we were like begging people to serve on committees. So that's been really nice. People are really engaged in the community, which is nice. And then we voted to keep an old police vehicle. It's no longer appropriate for police activity, but it'll be transitioned for the building inspector. Was the last.
Okay. Any questions for Eric? I have one. Will the new tax exemptions and abatements be effective for this year or next?
I believe that they will be the 2026 tax year decision, is my understanding of it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to know.
Yeah.
David, I wanted to ask about the status of the water study.
We did not get a report yet, but it is due this month. So if that's not on the next agenda, they will be asked about it.
Contract has been signed?
Yeah. You know, they're working on it. I know that
Okay.
they are actively working on it, but we have not received the report yet.
Okay, are the board and Ed aware of the desperate need we have for that to be finished?
Yes. Yeah. I've reiterated that both in public and privately a couple of times that this is a critical piece of information.
Okay, any other questions for Eric? Hearing none, let's go to land use. Rob?
As I was alluding to earlier, I did have the privilege to go to the New Hampshire Planners Spring Conference last week. It was held in Laconia. Really got a lot out of that. It was a very good conference. They held it at a place called the Belknap Mill in Laconia, which is a very historic mill that goes back to, I believe, the early 1820s. It's now obviously very historic, and it's one of the few mills that they really sort of saved it as it was. So it still has a lot of the equipment that was inside it, the tower. So you can go in and see it if anybody's thinking.
Actually, museum.
It's a
about
museum
that
on the first
equipment on
level.
the first floor.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
It's really impressive. I would highly recommend. Laconia is sort of on the rise as an old mill town. Obviously, it's got a lot going for it in that it's sort of placed right between two of New Hampshire's prettiest lakes. I would call what's happening gentrification. There's been a lot of movement in the downtown area to refurbish and fix up old, dilapidated mills and related structures to nice housing. And we took a walking tour of the downtown. There's a really nice multi-purpose recreational trail similar to the Northern Rail Trail. It's a rail trail, tight trail that goes along 3 different lakes, and the downtown was bustling. It was a beautiful day. It's very pretty. The Winnipesaukee River comes out of Lake Winnipesaukee and goes right through the downtown of Laconia. We heard from city representatives during the actual conference talking about success of some of their innovative land use controls. I was impressed. They had a couple of their staff members give updates on stuff that they've been working on. They have several TIF districts that are helping to facilitate some of the investments that they're doing. We've had a fair amount of turnover there. That seemed like those guys that were doing the talking were fairly recent, within the last couple of years. I know that their mayor is now the city manager in Lebanon. But the highlight for me was they took us into the newly renovated Colonial Theater in downtown Laconia. That was a big project. I remember hearing about it when we went to another conference 3 or 4 years ago, that it was in the works. Complete restoration. They put some housing in that building. It's kind of privatized in terms of the management of the theater itself, but we got to see it all. It's spectacular, beautiful facility. And as I said, I just was struck with sort of the renaissance happening in downtown Laconia. So that was really cool, and it was great. I always take a lot out of just being able to sort of interact with colleagues in the business. I'm sure you do too, Nate. It was a good representation. The New Hampshire Planners is a good active group, sort of on the rise, I'll say. It seems like it's getting more popular every time I go to these shows. If you'll recall, we actually hosted that same meeting last summer at the community building, and several of you were there. So it's a nice opportunity for different communities to shine, and I always take a lot out of like good ideas and just networking and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, it was a privilege to go, and I always enjoy those things, and I've made a lot of good friends in the industry, and that's half the benefit for me, is being able to just kind of schmooze with those people and talk about what they're up to, what's going on in their towns. And we see each other a lot in various other things around, usually it's online. It's just fun to see people in person. I haven't seen you since the Teams meeting last week.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
But so that was really cool, kind of a highlight. I'm also pleased to report that the second cohort of the Enfield Citizens Academy has been formed. We had 17 applications, and we decided to take all 17 into the class. The first session is next Thursday, a week from tomorrow night. Be right here. At some point I could share with you the attendees. It's kind of interesting, the list. There's a fair amount of people that you would say, everything already, but people really very passionate about their community and want to know more. And so I think that's a good sign. And as you know, that group sort of became kind of I'll call it a farm system, like baseball analogy, for future service on boards and committees. And we did pull several people from last year. Bill Griffin, you were on that, although you were already involved with us, but we put you to even more work since, so that was really cool. So that is gonna be fun. That's 7 classes, starting this month and going through November. I do a land use night, it'll be in June. Next week is Ed, town manager, sort of giving a general overview of municipal government. And so it'll be fun. The sort of reviews from last year were really positive. We got good feedback from the class, and the town manager was happy, the selectmen seemed to be really happy. I think it's a nice little feather in our cap as a town to see something like that succeed. So very happy about that. I think I reported to you guys at some point, not too distant past, that this transition from winter to summer, where we don't have any snow and we don't have any leaves, although the leaves are coming out fast now, it seems to be complaint season for me. I'm receiving several land use complaints. I've got several letters out right now. The big one is obviously junk cars. As you guys know, that's a constant battle. My whole time in municipal government, it's constant. And so we've got several of those going. We've got a few complaints of neighbors where they think their neighbors are doing things that are not copacetic with our regs. I've got a lighting complaint. I've got a home-based business that's not really doing a good job of staying in the home or in any buildings. I'm working on that. I've got campers. I am pleased to report that the camper that we gave a variance to 6 months ago appears to be gone. So that, we gave them 6 months.
Good.
And so I think that may have resolved. But where one goes out, there's another one in somewhere else, and so we're dealing with those. I did take a survey for the state of New Hampshire at the request of Shirley Green, who's the chair of the Conservation Commission. It was their vernal pool study, which is kind of an interesting thing that kind of piques my interest, might be something for discussions, any zoning changes, or at least having a look at. It's something that I think has kind of slipped through the cracks, and I think that's why the state is kind of coming at us with the survey and asking a lot of questions. Vernal pools are not necessarily like what you would consider wetlands, because they appear in the spring and then they disappear. Mm-hmm. But they're very important ecologically, as you guys are all aware. If you step outside and listen, that peeper sound that I so love of spring, they're hanging out in the vernal pools, and the little tadpoles and the little salamanders and all these little creepy crawlies. The vernal pools are absolutely essential. So I would encourage you guys as a board to review our policy, and I think the Conservation Commission will be doing the same going forward. Let's see. I think we're doing pretty good elsewhere. The town is upgrading software. The financial management software for the whole town is switching from a brand called AccuFund to a new software company called Edmunds, which will also eventually, in the next few months, also include a permitting node or nodule that will help us do building permits and land use stuff. So that's going to be exciting to get that off the ground and rolling. Let's see. That's about it in terms of high stuff. I will absolutely answer any questions that you guys have, but certainly as spring has sprung here, it's definitely gotten busier. You know, the real estate market seems to have ticked up a little bit. Obviously, speculation is high now as people start considering, oh, what can I do with that lot? You know, that kind of a thing. So we're getting every day calls on various properties. What can I do? What can I do? Can I build on a class? You know, all these different questions. We did have a fair amount of staff last week attend a NHMA training, which is an excellent training that some of you may have done before, called the Hard Road to Travel, which is all about access and class 6 and class 5, all the different classifications.
All about transportation in
all
general.
All about transportation, yeah. Exactly. So we had Public Works, our assistant attended with several of our highway guys in on that session. It was it's good training.
It really is the premier training for anything related to the road system, transportation network in New Hampshire.
Yep.
When can you gate a road? When can you do this? How do you convert something to a Class A trail? How do you get all of those types of considerations, development on Class 6 roads?
Yep.
you know, it's all covered
Yeah.
in this hard road to travel training. It's one of NHMA's great offerings. It
It
really
really
is.
is. And I particularly enjoyed it because there's been a fair amount of change just in the last few legislative sessions that has affected policy, what can and can't happen and so forth. So I got a lot out of it. It was almost a full day training. I did it virtually, so did the rest of us, but very interesting. There was their legal staff that does it. At some point, they'll do it again, and if anybody has any interest, I would absolutely encourage it. We would pay for it. So, yeah, any questions? Oh, I will say too, I usually think about my friend over there, Tim, about the afternoon, the planning board meeting, and I'm like, building permits. So I sent you the spreadsheet so you can see that. We're up to, I think, 43 permits year to date. I would say that's slightly below tracking for last year, maybe by 4 or 5 permits year to date. If you recall, I thought it was kind of slow for building permits in the winter because it was a real winter here. We had lots of snow, lots of cold. So,
I
yeah.
noticed they're all existing. Are they typically existing, or is this?
Yeah, the majority, so we don't build a lot of houses, you know, we're lucky if we get 10 to 12 new units, and even those may not be new houses, they may be adding an ADU. I think one of them was for an ADU in there. One of them was a new mobile home. That's a very common thing where people pull out a dilapidated
Put those,
manufactured house and then pull in a new one.
Is that what happened in that case?
I think so. Yep.
And then that ADU, just quickly, describe that, as far as you know, what that's all about.
Give me the address, do you see it?
It's on,
Carol sheet.
39 Lake Street, Nick Lucas.
Yes, okay, so I'm very familiar with him. He is a elderly gentleman. He's the guy that used to own George's, you probably remember. Really nice guy. He has property on Lake Street. He's just off the sewer. He's talked to us several times about trying to extend the sewer. Fortunately, it's all ledge underneath Lake Street. And of course, the engineering expense of trying to put in an extended sewer main up Lake Street was prohibitive. So he's kind of sort of passing his house down to his family members. I think it's a grandchild that's living in his house now and sort of takes care of it while he's in Florida. But he still wants to be able to come up here. So when we talked, I offered that as an option, and he was very excited about the 1,200 square feet and the detached option. So he did contact a septic system designer, got himself a 2-bedroom approval for an additional septic system on that property, and we'll be building a 1,200 square foot detached ADU there so that he's got a place. He's a snowbird, so he's coming up here in the summer and he's going to Florida, just like Linda. In
Is
the
that
winter.
the first ADU that we built in?
I wouldn't say first one ever, but it's certainly the first one this year. I mean, it's, as you said, I think you sent an email to somebody, I think I saw it today. It's like, we're not seeing it. And I think, we've had several discussions at some of the meetings that I go to, and, the regulations obviously are a big part of it, but we've made ours very generous, and it's still not happening. And I think one of the things that's come up, you've probably seen this in your stuff too, Nate, is the financial side
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
They're just not penciling out. You can spend $200,000 building an ADU, and the bank gets nervous because it doesn't add $200,000 to your value.
Yeah.
So they're kind of struggling with, how do we make this work? How do we adjust for that? And of course, we're all trying to get as much housing as we can, and it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, there's.
I think they need to do something on the tax side, because it's also very punitive to build an ADU. I can speak personally for that. It pounds on your income tax because you're not getting withholdings on your rent. It does hit you hard on your property tax. It's a significant increase in your value, even if it doesn't pencil out for the banks. It adds a lot to a property tax value. So it's sort of counterintuitive. We're sort of, again, penalizing people for creating the housing. If we really want to encourage it, And they need to do something along those lines. And the 800-pound gorilla in the room, every time we talk about this, is current use. The current use has promoted great tracts of land just to sit, you know. People can sit on land with really no penalty. There's nothing to disincentivize that. In fact, the current use incentivizes, you know, 100 acres, you get a $200 tax bill if you're enrolled in current use. So what's the incentive to do anything? In fact, if you pull it out and try to build housing, you're gonna get a humongous current use penalty, 10% of the assessed value of what comes out. And I can tell you that in my property, that was a $7,000 penalty for me. So again, we're still sort of stuck in that rut of penalizing creation of housing.
One other question. A few months ago, it was brought up about pointed out there's quite a bit of activity on the other side of Mud Pond Road off of Lock Haven, a lot of excavating going on, that sort of thing.
On Lock Haven?
Yeah, off of Lock Haven. You guys remember that?
Someone from the audience, when we were having discussion on something,
I don't know where it came from.
I don't remember it, but I missed a couple of meetings.
I can tell you that I know this from personal experience, that the Snowmobile Club, represented by Paul Courier and a couple of other guys on Crystal Lake Road, had done a significant amount of improvements to the Class 6 with permission.
No, this was on the other side of the stream.
It's a corner of Holly and Lock Haven.
Oh, okay, so is it Kovacs? He's got the 200 acres. He's done some modest work on his access out there. If you remember, he subdivided off the old Crystal Lake Lodge, which is right there by the dam.
Okay, you looked at it. It's fine.
I think it's Shirley. Something's making some noise. I just muted her.
That
Okay.
in the corner, Holly, that got shut down.
Say again?
Anything else for Rob?
Holly got shut down.
Oh, it did? Oh, I figured it was legit.
The one across the street's all right, but that one right in the corner.
Okay. Legislative report. Couple of bills that failed, which are of interest to Enfield. One was a bill that would have allowed a town to reduce the speed limit to 20 miles per hour, which is something that the people on Crystal Lake would have liked to have seen. Another one was a bill that would have returned jurisdictional control optionally of ADUs within the protected shoreland to the towns. But the Senate Commerce Committee thought that we have a really good ADU law as it exists, and any deviation would dilute it. Let's see. We had a bill pass the House, and I'm pretty sure it's on its way to the governor, that would allow dead-end roads to extend forever with unlimited amount of development on those dead-end roads. Coming up tomorrow are two incredibly important bills. One would allow data centers by right in any zone that is commercial or industrial. I'm pretty sure that that one is going to be tabled and will die a very peaceful death. The other one is a zoning bill, which has a good part. The good part being that it would require appeals to the zoning board to bring up all issues with the original appeal. The bad part is a very poorly worded, and nobody really seems to understand it. Well, it's in the same zoning appeal section, but it refers to planning boards. And if a planning board requests revisions on a site plan or subdivision, the revision would have to be stamped and accepted within 10 business days of being received by the town, which doesn't even give you enough time for, posting a warning of a special meeting. And the applicant could only, or the planning board could only require a single revision. And then the applicant would be able to build or subdivide according to that revised plan number 1. And since that applies to, well, it applies to everything. Single family, multifamily, commercial, industrial. I can't see doing something like Laramie Farms with just one revision. Wouldn't work, so that one's up for grabs. Don't know how it's gonna go. And that's it for the moment on legislative report.
Dave, is there anything that's been passed or likely to pass that would require us to revise our zoning ordinance?
Well, the dead-end road,
I don't think we have a provision in ours, though, about dead-end roads.
It might be in the subdivision.
Probably in
I
subdivision.
think we
regs.
do. There's a certain length limit, and it has to have a cul-de-sac or a hammerhead at the end.
So that would be in the site plan.
Yeah, the site plan is subdivision.
Yeah, okay.
And the Class 6 road, which basically opens up Class 6 roads to development as long as people can get insurance. The select board no longer has to give permission, and the planning board, I don't think, has to review it. I'm not sure what else. Well, okay, yeah. Housing, well, we allow housing in commercial anyhow. Home-based daycare by right, no site plan review. Center-based daycare also by right.
Yeah, that's probably something we'll have to change.
Anything else, Nate, that you can think of?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, all of those daycare ones are attempts to, there's a daycare, they're childcare, I should say.
Childcare,
problem.
yeah, I'm sorry.
There is a childcare problem in this state. Believe me, I've lived it.
I'm sure you have.
And there are, attempts to try to ease some of that. And I think these bills are attempts to try to.
They are, without understanding
Yeah,
what the whole process and unintended consequences are.
Yes. I will say, I subscribe to something, it's free, and not to give them a plug or whatever, but the New Hampshire Business Review has a daily news browser. You can sign up for it for free, and, like 10 o'clock in the morning, they send you a set of news stories from around the state. What might be going on in the Seacoast or the Upper Valley in the North Country, in Manchester and Nashua, and it's kind of New Hampshire, what's going on in New Hampshire that day in an email.
Nice.
And it's a pretty neat service. And I happened a couple of days ago to see an article about the data center bill. And I clicked on it and read it, and there you are
There's me.
at the committee meeting, and they're quoting you, and your picture is there, and you're speaking at the committee meeting. You were quite involved.
Actually, I was not speaking.
They quoted you, but
I know they quoted me, but the woman next to me was the one that was actually speaking.
oh, really? Okay.
Because, look closely, her microphone has the red light on.
Okay. But you clearly were, quite involved and knowledgeable about that particular data
Yeah.
center bill and what was going on there. And
Al-
data
although-
centers are a hot topic all
They are
around
all
the
over
country.
the country.
And, worth
Fort-
keeping an eye on everything related to data centers.
44,000 acres in Utah, I think, have been proposed for a data center.
It's gonna use more power than the whole state already uses.
6 gigawatts.
Crazy.
So, yeah, there's a definite need to get a handle on data centers, particularly how they might affect New Hampshire. And the bill that is before us, that we will be voting on tomorrow, just doesn't do it. I mean, it just opens it up to data centers anywhere, and they can be regulated the same as any other industry would be in that particular type of zone. And the more I get into data centers, the more I realize that they are not like anything else. I was speaking with a woman this afternoon who's done a lot of work on data centers with the Sierra Club. And her spiel was, it's the noise. You can hear the noise 2 miles away.
Oh my gosh.
And, if you put a data center in a commercially zoned district, which also happens to have housing, childcare, both by right, you've got an incredible conflict. So as a state, we really need to get a hold of it, get a handle on it, figure out what the pitfalls are, and I'm quite sure that next year there will be several bills introduced that will get a handle on data centers and propose how we can do data centers on a smaller New Hampshire scale that will not do anything for the environment or noise and keep the rural character. So that's where we are. I suggest that we move the minutes to the bottom of the agenda because Renee has been sitting there patiently for 40 minutes almost, and I think we should get to the site plan audit that Renee has done since we have last seen her. So come on up. I haven't had time to read your document. I don't think anybody else
I
has.
apologize for the delay on that, sending it over. It's good to see everyone in person. Oh, it's been a little bit. A couple of notes before we dive into site plan, a previous conversation, if you don't mind, topics that were discussed.
Go right ahead.
On the ADU, I think you were at the first Vital Communities event at the Kilton Library too. So they, the financing being of conversation, Vital Communities in partnership with a couple of the regional commissions as well, has kind of tried to bring together some folks into a room, a mix of municipal planners, bankers, developers, builders, A gentleman, Mike Warren from the North Country Forestry, came down for it. So really good event, and to talk, it primarily focused around what are the pinch points in financing came up, and they're having a continued meeting with some of the invitees next week, so stay tuned on that. So that is something that regionally is being looked at as far as ADU and financing goes, so that we realize that that is kind of that largest pinch point right now. So trying to get some traction and get some ideas out there to help assist with that. So that was ADUs. The other thing was the daycare that came up. And so you'll probably be seeing a letter from us soon. We are working on looking at a few handful of towns in our region where the regulations are out of date, considering home-based daycares, to your point. So Enfield was one of them, and so we have some funding assistance to kind of help and look and dive into home-based daycare, updating regulations per statute for that. So that's coming up this summer as well for us at the RPC, so stay tuned for that. And I think that was it, ADU and daycare. But any questions on those?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So if, I take it you're gonna evaluate the new laws and then tell the
Yes.
towns you need to update
Yeah.
your zoning ordinance. We need that information probably by midsummer
Yes. Yep.
in order
Yeah.
to get it in the pipeline of.
Yes. Yep. So the grant project that we have is now through about September, October. So we have a short window as well. So we're good. The team's gonna be powerhousing through it through the summer. Again, it's only a few selected towns. It's not all of our region, but
Well, you get what I mean? If we get
Drafted
something
edits.
from you in October, it's like too
Yes.
dang late.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the drafted edits of the changes, absolutely. I think, yeah, so more to come on that. This just dropped, so more to come for sure. But I think that was that. And I'll put a plug in. The New Hampshire Zoning Atlas has some really good information on daycare in the state as well, just for a resource if folks are looking for where things are at with that. But we'll dive into site plan. So taking kind of a cursory look and just kind of a reminder of what site plan does and is. I know a lot of you have been on the board for quite a while and are well aware, but kind of like having on our cap of like, what is it that we're looking at and what is this allow us to impact, right? There's certain parameters within there. So I have a quote in the memo too from the New Hampshire OPD Planning Board Handbook that basically reminds us that it's constructed in such a way that they fit into the area without causing the areas that are often looked at and that shall be looked at and could be looked at, i.e. drainage, traffic, lighting, and all of that. Similar problems, parking, traffic flow. So thus far, in looking through the site plan, so in the memo, I have two documents that we're working with right now. We have a drafted amended, so all of this information is in your original, I've taken your original site plan and crossed out, have the strike through in there. All of this that's in the memo is in that full document. So at the June meeting, once we kind of finish up some of these points that we get as we go through this, you'll have your current site plan review regulations with strike throughs and red highlights as to what needs to be changed or what our recommended changes are. However, the board would like to proceed with that, but that's our cursory review of the site plan regulations. So in going through it, Enfield does designate minor and major site plan reviews. It was interesting as we were going through it that the application, as you're looking through your site plan regs, there's differences for your minor and majors and which falls in which bucket. Your application standards are designated in your site plan review regulations, but your content does not differentiate. So to that point, a minor site plan their application burden may be less, but their requirements for what they have to submit is the same as a major. So that was kind of one thing that we saw that was like, unless they request waivers, which of course you have the waiver option in there, but we just notated it as it's kind of a burdensome, could be a burdensome piece for a minor. And again, minor, one of your pieces in minor is, for example, a pre-existing commercial space and they're adding on 500 square feet is a minor. So that's a relatively small area. And so just kind of thinking of that too. One thing, again, this is through the HOP, so thinking housing. Any multifamily currently in the regulations are major. Some towns do designate numbers of units or a percentage of units to go to minor or major. So one recommendation, you'll see the first one, or section 1.5 applicability. 152 minor review is to add establishment of multifamily use where no multifamily use currently exists for 2 to 4 units. So again, bringing in a threshold.
Can I just ask a
Yes.
question about that?
Yeah.
I think, the logic here makes sense. I would see it as 3 to 4 units,
Okay.
because I don't think we as a town anywhere in the land use regulations define two
Two.
as a multifamily
That's
use.
Yeah,
And I don't think we would want to encompass
Open
a
that.
duplex under any realm
Right.
of the site plan regulations. So that was one,
Sure.
3 to 4 probably would be the threshold.
Okay.
I think, that's my opinion.
Yeah, 'cause I'm-
no, that's good, and I think we had decided over the last year that, we would use the cutoff that banks use between residential and a commercial multifamily as our cutoff, and
That's what she's done, yeah,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
essentially what this,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's a good recommendation.
Yeah. So moving them in just to a slightly threshold, again, just kind of lowering a barrier there potentially. And as you're looking through this, I do have a legend there, but italics, anything in these items that we should go through, 1, 2, 3, 4, anything in italics is current language, red is proposed edit, and strike through is removing it because it's probably outdated as we work through this.
Can I just go back to one
Yeah,
thing? You said that
absolutely.
the application requirements are the
Yeah.
same for major and minor?
Yeah, so let me,
Because I do
Well,
see,
so,
I do see
no.
different application requirements,
application requirements are different, the standards are the same.
the standards.
So when it comes to,
So you're in Article 5 instead of 4?
yes.
Because application requirements are in 4,
different.
and they are different.
They are different, yes. Application requirements are different, so the burden there is less. But what you're requiring them to meet as far as like in their
Okay.
standards.
I see.
Is still the vast.
Yeah, okay, I must,
Yeah, sorry.
I understand. I thought you were
Flip.
on application requirements, and I'm like, I think they're different.
No, those are
okay.
different. It's the standards that they, required, let me. Document here. Alright, so. And that I do have later on, and we're still working through that one, so I just wanted to bring that of note as we're talking, because it's that first one of differentiating multifamily, right? Minor and major, so I just wanted to mention it, because I was actually just talking to Tim again about it today, in the office, and so that is one that is still being fleshed out a little more, and in looking at other towns that have minor. And I guess on that note, while we're on minor and major, has the board ever considered, or is are you all aware of the idea of a technical review committee? Or a minor plan committee?
The staff level department head review?
Yeah, where you have the committee cohorts who actually end up signing off on it, if it meets that minor, and they can give the approval.
I think I threw that concept out a couple of years ago, and it was roundly not well thought of.
Okay. Okay.
But that doesn't mean that we can't revisit it.
That must have been before my time, I don't remember that.
It was, yeah, it was.
Maybe it was more than a
in the
couple of
early zoning discussion, up-grant periods. I remember having this guy, and I always thought like, well, we have one staff member, and we get so few applications anyways.
Yeah,
You know, it's sort of like, that's sort of
it's,
why we're here.
So what's the idea?
it's better suited to a larger municipality
Yeah.
like Lebanon
Yeah.
or Concord or Manchester,
Yeah.
where you have lots and lots of applications for fairly little projects. And if you have a technical review committee of a planner, I think the building inspector, maybe a fire department person, they can look at it and say, yeah, there's no problem with this.
They would essentially have approval authority.
Yeah.
For minor
Yeah.
site plan. You would have basically a committee of department heads
Right, yeah,
looking at a minor site plan review application,
yeah, but a committee of one
evaluating it according, you know.
Yeah.
is like,
So, and you do,
he's pretty
and
busy already, so.
you do see it in larger communities more than small communities.
Yeah. Just wanted to broach it out there that, you know, maybe something to think of in the next few years, doesn't have to be now, but just like that is an option sometimes for
No,
towns and
we are
boards.
not
so.
going to grow that
No,
much.
I don't think so. But yeah, so it's, Lebanon, for example, has it's the Director of Planning and Development, Chief Building Official, Director of Public Works, Fire Chief, and Police Chief. And they all sit down and kind of review that technical component of it. And if they can also then push it to full planning board if need be. And any appeals from those typically go to full planning board first. But that's just a note. Okay, so, moving on, as we talked about before, part of this is also cursory to look at RSAs and making sure any RSAs are updated. So we're looking through, we are also highlighting and either inserting in red where maybe an RSA isn't listed, but it just says, for example, there's one in 2.1 where it says state law. And so we just put in parentheses after that, the RSA that it's actually mentioning, referring to. So you'll see that. Section 1.7 was a really interesting one. When I was going through, we're going through the regulations. It's roughly 30 some odd pages, right? 35, 36. I have a few added in here in my document right now, but kind of lengthy.
I want to see a page and a half.
Oh, no, sorry. Oh, the full document.
Oh,
Sorry. I'm sorry. It was not clear. The full document itself is rather long. And section 1.7, general guidance, is pretty much reiterating the same thing that is in Article 2. And it's the speak of it is all very, this is for the applicant, and so that you understand, and here's what could happen, and here's what this, and it's really more of like a guidance, what I would consider a flyer or a conversation maybe would happen at the time. So that's just that's kind of like, as we're going through it, it's like this is all the same outline and same cadence as Article 2. So
It is
our
redundant,
recommendation
yeah.
would be to remove that. And if you wanted to keep it and keep some of the language, you can absolutely have it as a handout or a informational piece if someone's coming in with questions. But
Yeah, that one-page flyer type
Yeah.
concept with some of these points on it would be a good thing to be, prospective applicant comes and visits you.
Good thing to have on the website, too.
I'm thinking about doing X, Y, or Z with my property. What do I need to be aware of? You talk through options with them, and then they can leave with a flyer like that. And that's probably a pretty good.
yeah, and I think the biggest thing, and that does encompass, is the timeline. A lot of folks, when they're coming into Rob probably, is like, and as I've encountered in other towns, it's like, oh, I need this. So like, when do I get this back? Next Friday? It's like, so sorry, there's a whole process to this, and it has to, so many days for notice and all of that. So sometimes people just are unaware of that component. And again, it's really good information. We just noted it's very redundant in your actual regulations. So If you change something in Article 2, you would have to change it in 1.7 because it's saying almost the same thing, so just a redundancy. And that will help really kind of, again, make things a little more clear and succinct for people looking through the site plan. Doesn't seem quite as overwhelming when you remove about a page and a half. Any questions on that? Any other thoughts?
No, I
Okay.
think that makes sense.
Okay. Awesome. Then we move into Article 2, which is procedure for site plan review. And again, that's where it's that outlining, here's the steps, here's what happens, and really laying the foundation for what the town and what you as a board can fall back on as far as like, here's how it's gonna go and here's why, in case anyone asks and questions come up. There was a little bit of confusing verbiage in the final application review that we caught, and have an option to consider rewording. So again, in the italic, strike through is what exists today, which states the board shall give a formal response to the applicant with respect to the proposal by informing the applicant in writing of approval or disapproval within 65 days. And so we looked through some other site plan regs and found this verbiage in several of them. It's just a little more clear on how to say the same thing. So that in there. Another RSA check in 2.4, and this was an odd one. I hadn't seen this before and wanted to run this by the board too and highlight today was at the end of 2.4, notice of application. So when you're sending your notice out and certified mail and it's explaining all of that, there's a line at the bottom that says the board may also give notice by regular mail to other landowners in the vicinity of the tract. And I didn't know if there was a reason for that, or if you do that, or if that should just be removed.
Some kind of a vestige.
I have no idea.
Yeah, Rob, you do the mailing, and we have like a 200-foot radius for a butter, so.
And the abutter actually by law is less than that, could be less than that. It's just really the ones that are,
A butter list was larger
Yeah, we
than
do
the
a 200.
requirements.
200.
Yeah.
So,
Which is important, particularly on lakefront. You know, some of those
Sure.
lots aren't even 50 feet, so it's, I think that's good policy to. Sure.
I think it was the term to leave open the option if a situation arose where someone else needed to be identified and informed, but they were not in a butter. I think that's all I read into it.
Yeah.
It was just another option.
Yeah,
But it seems like you could do that regardless if it's written in here or not.
yeah, it's,
The one thing I would highlight and recommend is the RSA statute definition change of a butter. And Nate, help me out if you remember this from last year, I think it was, maybe 2 now, was that the status of a butter also changed. So meaning the appeal, anyone who could appeal it, technically that is limited to the status of a butter as the RSA dictates. If your reg, say, classifies, oh, we might give regular mail to somebody and notice them, do they then think that they have a butter status, but to the RSA they don't? And so that's a legal kind of gray area.
It's a really good
Yeah,
observation.
I would be
It's
leery
an odd
of
sentence,
that.
I've never noticed it before, but now that you pointed it out, you know, it is,
It opens up to a greater potential that really doesn't have standing for the RSA.
to me, I think that's just my opinion, I think that section should mirror the RSA. And that's it.
Yeah, I wonder if we leave that sentence in, if people wouldn't expect to be notified.
Yeah.
And then if they weren't, they would be mad for no good reason. So,
I mean, it's a may, it's not a shall. So
yeah,
they could read into that exactly like you said, David, but.
It is an interesting fact, the amount of people when they get certified mail, don't take it.
Yes.
I mean, if we do 25 mailings, 2 or 3 are coming back because people will refuse them.
They won't take it,
I think it's
And that's on them, because all we have to do is certify it.
foreclosure,
They think it's not good news.
You're being served.
Yes, yeah, they think if they don't get it, they don't have to do anything, yeah.
Right.
But it's on them, because if they come and say, yeah, you never told me, we say, hey, here, we send it to you, you just didn't open it.
Happens
Yeah.
Yes.
a lot.
Oh, yeah. That's why I keep those
A
that
lot,
come back. I
yeah.
keep 'em,
Yeah.
yeah.
You never notified me. Well,
Skeletons in there.
we have
Here it
receipts, you know, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I think Nate's probably right, we should probably mirror the RSA, because this is about meeting the legal requirement.
Yes,
If you had other language, then somebody else could come in and argue, well, I think you should have notified me, and it says that you can, so you should have.
Yeah.
And we don't want to put ourselves in that, but this is about, we're meeting the law of the state to notify people, and we're doing more than is the minimum, so. Is there, I mean, could somebody come up with a situation where we would want to notify somebody who's not in the butter by the,
By mailing, because
Yeah, by the mailing
public
definition.
notice is still a
Right.
thing.
Post it on the agenda. It's
Yeah.
on
but
the-
no, that's what
Yeah,
I'm trying,
that's
I'm
like
trying to think of a
everybody else in
situation
town.
where you would even want to do that.
Yeah.
Well, data center and noise, 2 miles away,
But,
but I don't
We're
know.
but are we
putting that at
really
the end
gonna
of your
need
street.
to?
If
In that
that ever
situation,
came up, there's nothing preventing us from.
right, I mean, would
doing
you
it,
need to notify some specific property?
I don't know. I think
yeah,
we
there
should
must have been
strike
some historical thing
Right.
that happened where somebody felt it was necessary to put that sentence in
Right.
there, but I think at this point, it doesn't need to be.
We can get rid of it, I think.
Yeah.
Does that
And-
seem to be the general consensus? We can drop that?
Yeah.
Paul, are you okay with that?
I am okay with it.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely right, it is very vague.
And I will go back in through, I believe the rest of it was pretty much mirror to the RSA, but I have a note in here that we will double check that and make sure that is, and keep that removed for that last line for sure. We'll make any other edits to that as need be. So under 211.1 is the section for appeals. And we caught that the RSA was updated. And this section doesn't really provide this information that we have here in red. So your current sentence in there starts with 211.1 says decisions by the planning board based solely upon interpretation of the zoning ordinance may be appealed first to the zoning board of adjustment or as determined by the provisions of RSA. We then looked at that RSA and it does mention this section in red, provided however that if the zoning ordinance contains an innovative land use control adopted pursuant to 674-21, which delegates administration, including the granting of conditional or special use permits, which I know the board has talked about that and maybe in the future having it. But again, this is also statute in there right now today. Then the planning board's decision made pursuant to that delegation cannot be appealed to the Board of Adjustment, but it rather goes to Superior. And you guys, in the current regs does have that last line of appeals made to Superior Court must be filed as specified. But this just brings it up to where that section was missing from 676.5.3. So, just caught that. That's why that is there.
Do we have any innovative land use controls under 674-21?
So you may not now,
We
but
have
they're cluster.
cluster.
Cluster, that, okay.
Cluster.
We do have cluster.
Yeah,
That might be it.
that is it at the moment.
Okay, well, this does need to be in there then,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. I just flipped open my handy dandy
And we
logbook.
had-
Yeah.
We had the
Find that
Paul
list
Mursky
of-
one till we rescinded it.
The
That was
the
it.
village plan alternative?
Yeah.
That's it.
You don't have any.
So the innovative land use controls are timing incentives, phase development, intensity and use incentives, transfer of development rights, planned unit development, cluster development, impact zoning, performance standards, flexible and discretionary zoning, environmental characteristics zoning, inclusionary zoning, impact fees, village plan alternative subdivision, and integrated land development permit option. So I guess we do have cluster development, but not, we have cluster development, but not village plan alternative
Right.
anymore.
We rescinded that.
Yeah. So we used to have two.
2, cluster and,
Village plan alternative.
Used to.
no,
We used to.
we used to have that.
Yes, we used to have two, now we have one.
Now we have 1. Maybe we'll have more at some point. It would be nice.
So because we do have the potential for an application to be under an innovative land use control, in this case cluster, this language should be there.
Absolutely.
Moving on, the number 6 on our list here is Article 3. Just a typo, or we hear often sometimes where special exemption, special exception, and so we just have that edit there. And then the next sentence in Article 3 in your regulations, it immediately goes down to when a special exception or variance. So it's just cleaning up the language and matching the paragraph right below it. Keeping that clean. In Article 4, application requirements, again, we're still kind of, application requirements, 412, it mentions the New Hampshire Water Supply and Pollution Control Commission for sewage disposal system approval, which is no longer, and it's really New Hampshire DES. So just updating that verbiage.
Could you?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't look at
No, that's okay.
Guessing this is here, somewhere in this section, but I think it specifies the size of the blueprints that were already copied.
Yeah, yep. So in major review submission requirements, 411, 7 sets of full-size prints and 12 11 by 17 copies of the site plan map shall be submitted. The site plan map should be drawn to a scale of 1 inch equals 20 feet.
Well, I suggest to the board that, the Laramie Farms is a great example because, you know, you get a stack of prints yay big and so you want to reference them while you're sitting here, but you know, we can only have like 1 set and then we're leaning over, and so there is a bigger than 11 by 17 because you cannot read the fine print, but the 18 by 24 you can. And so I think that's the C size. So I think we should amend that yes, we get so many copies of the full-size prints, but unless a board member requests otherwise, I think we should ask for 7 of that smaller version.
So it was 7 sets of full and 12 11 by 17. So 12, 22.
And do we need 7
18 by 24.
full-size sets?
Well,
It's a question.
not really, because if an alternate goes to pick up and then they're gonna end up sitting, you know, goes to Rob's office to pick up a copy to review, goes to the meeting, and then they get appointed as a regular member, the one who has the 7 is not at the meeting. So,
Right.
So you're
So-
saying we need enough for alternates too?
yes.
Yeah, agreed.
And that would be the 12.
Okay, well, let's see, there's 7 plus 3 alternates is 10.
Well,
Oh, it could be up to
whatever
5
the regs
alternates,
are,
right?
whatever we have.
Yeah, I think we decided the optimal number of alternates is 3. So
That's 10.
we're kind of down 1 at this point.
No, we're not. We have 3.
Yeah.
Ben's just not here.
But the optimal number being 3 doesn't mean that the select board couldn't appoint more if they wished.
Right, they could appoint a
Yeah.
total of 5.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm thinking 12 of the C side, the
18
18 by
by 24.
24s.
Okay.
It's manageable while you're sitting here, you can read everything, and then a certain number of the full size, maybe 4. Just toss the number out there. And forget the 11 by 17, because it,
So, yeah,
It's
11,
too dang
17s
small.
are pretty useless. I mean, I prefer the full size because I can use those and not have to keep putting my reading glasses on and off, but
Right, well, the other advantage, to me, a necessity of the full size, I can get out
Just
my
to scale.
engineering ruler.
Yeah.
And do some measurements.
yeah.
You can do that with the C size as well.
No, it's not to scale.
Yeah, you can.
It's, they just
You can't
reduce,
do it with the 12.
they're just gonna reduce down and everything's, you can't use the scale bar that's on the prints because it's been reduced.
They just use a pair of dividers. I mean, it's easy to do. In other words, we didn't get any 18 by 24 prints. And the only thing we have from Laramie are the great big ones.
Now, those,
The little
We've
ones
got
are,
11, 17.
Okay.
the little ones are useless.
Right.
So I'm just pick a number. We just need a combination here that's gonna work for us. And I think most folks will find that the smaller version is just fine. And so we have a few extras that are bigger for those who want them, and otherwise.
Why don't we keep 7 of the full size
Yeah, I was
and do
gonna
a
say, yeah.
dozen of the, are they C? Is that what you
I
said?
think it's C
size?
size, they're 18 by 24.
yeah, 12 of this 18 by 24,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
I'd also like to make it so that the requirement is that you submit a PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna make that
Version,
request.
because there's people that don't
The
want it
digital
paper.
version.
Yeah.
So we can send them,
Right, but
and we
even
can
just
load it on our
for,
website.
for
we can-
filing purposes, be able to call up a PDF file versus looking for a paper copy on something, they just wanna look at one thing, and a butter question or something.
Well, we're just talking about major site plan review, right?
This is application requirements and 4.1 major review submission, yeah.
Yeah, an electronic requirement, I
PDF.
think is worthwhile. I don't see that in here.
Yeah.
It should be
Yeah.
for,
It should be added.
yeah.
Everything.
I mean, our major site plan requires a plat or done by an engineer or a surveyor who is, in this day and age, going to have the appropriate equipment to do it digitally. One would hope.
Yes.
I don't
yeah,
know
and I
anybody
think
who's
Yeah.
still, doing it on a drafting table.
So we want all documents, application, everything in digital format if it's a major site plan review.
Yeah, as well as hard copy.
Yeah, we definitely, as a board, need a paper copy. And I don't find the 11s by 17s to be useless, but 18 by 24 would be better. And so, if we change it to that, I'm totally fine with that, but.
If you saw at the Laramie Farms thing, I had a box full of 11/17s. Public came and grabbed all of them.
Yeah.
Welcome to it.
But yeah, I do think a electronic submission of a plan set should be a requirement
Yeah.
for all majors.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'll put a note also, I think the application, it's also handy, is that on, I'll look at it, but the application usually should designate to, I'll add that, I added it in here, but all applications, PDF version,
Okay.
major and minor.
The other thing, which I think is more of an internal thing, is that the checklist and the requirements need to be identical.
Is that, okay, yep, and I have a note of that too, checklist. Because, I think a checklist, I was in, the town of Wilmette is currently going through their site plan regs. Albeit there's a 16 pages long, but they're going through theirs and trying to, there's some confusion on checklists. And so there's definitely, I highly recommend the checklist matching and making sure that is clear to the applicant as well, for what's expected to deem an application complete. All right, so I have those notes on that section. Thank you for that. And then Article 5 being the standards and requirements. This is language, again, that was a little different than what we typically see in site plans, and while not wrong, wanted to bring it to the board and see if there's any thoughts on that. But this language in red that you see here in the memo is, again, typically what we have seen in other site plan regulations for kind of the approval upon determining and how they ascertain. And that is Article 5, the opening paragraph. So that's why it doesn't have a designated 5 point.
I don't have any.
You don't have any what?
I don't have any opinion on that, I guess.
It's just kind of language ease, if
Yeah,
you
that was the
will.
more legalese
Yeah.
one. I'm assuming the one in red is,
They both say shall, so I think we're.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the idea for the shall is, maybe there's other reasons, but if we approve a site plan and we didn't ascertain that adequate provisions had been made, then that would be a grounds for someone to appeal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's just something, again, to be highlighted and noticed, but the board can certainly
So
discuss.
you guys are going to go through all 5 point whatever's of these you got in here?
It looks like that's a
Yes.
section that's in
Yep.
progress.
Yep, so especially section 5.5 of traffic, that's a very large one within there. But, yep. That is our next phase, is going through the standard requirements. And, for some reason, my page. Enfields is pretty lengthy, I will say, on requirements. I know you guys have one going through the Pike right now and have gone through design review with them and all of that. And I guess during this time, like in the next month before the first meeting in June, are there areas that have been particularly hard or that you have comments on that we can help dive into a little more or offer up suggestions? That would be really helpful too, because again, you guys have had to go through this last year and look through everything, and so we can sit here and say recommendations too, for sure, and contrast and compare with others. Again, some of these in 5.5 is very specific, and again, these standards, one large recommendation, as mentioned earlier, is all these standards are here for, as far as I can tell, everyone, major and minor. Unless I missed something, but we missed something, but I think,
Well, in practice, while they may be applicable to both minor and major, in practice, we just sort of run through this as kind of a guideline and hit the ones that
Yeah,
apply,
I mean,
right?
yeah, I mean, there are some of the standards that apply to a particular site plan review, and there are others that do not apply.
right,
And when I'm writing the decision, I reference the standards that apply and that we considered, and then reach the conclusions.
so that's really helpful. So that I think is, so going back to this change of this edit of that first paragraph, the language in the red is saying that you shall ascertain the adequate provisions. So by your point of saying, going through and going, this doesn't apply, you're ascertaining that that doesn't impact this site plan. Whereas your current verbiage says that you will ensure that these requirements have been met.
Yeah.
So in that case, they have to technically meet that 5.2, 5.3, they have to hit all this unless they request a waiver, which of course, all this is waiverable, but puts a burden on the applicant to draft up 15 waivers potentially because they're just putting on 500 square feet of commercial space.
Yeah.
So that's really good to know.
Can you wordsmith it so that
Yes.
we determine what applies?
Yes. Yep, and I think again, we're gonna kind of break Article 5, and that's in our next section here, to minor. You know, not all of these would necessarily apply for a minor of what you currently designate is allowed for a minor. You know, you wouldn't need as heavy-handed verbiage that's in here. So we'll pare it down for minors and truncate that, and then you'll have your major, which will have more, this a little more in-depth. But again, with the edited version here of the planning board shall ascertain the adequate provisions, that gives you wiggle room to say this doesn't impact.
Who determines whether or not a section applies though? Because I can imagine a discrepancy between
Board does.
voted or no.
No, we just, well,
We've had disagreements, you know, over interpretation of these things. You know, like, I was just looking at 5.5, 5.5.6, as it relates to a minor site plan. There shall be adequate circulation and parking, including loading facilities to ensure the safety of vehicles and pedestrians on the site.
Right.
We had a minor subdivision in here, or a minor site plan in here a few months ago where there was a parking space I did not believe was a safe movement of a vehicle. It was a blind movement to access that parking space. I voted against that, not because I was against the site plan, but I, you know, through the context of 5.5.6, I was the only one that voted against it, and I was the only one that held that opinion. But that was my judgment based on that particular aspect of the site plan regulations in the context of a minor site plan review. So it is our job to make that assertion. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't.
Right.
But yeah, that is kind of the, you know, essentially our role.
So one of the reasons I asked though is if a member of the public were to not disagree with like a decision, but disagree that, let's say, water drainage wasn't looked at and they thought it should be, if it's not documented as something that we said, this, we don't care about this, this is.
I think, you know, if a member of the public brings something up, a concern, as a board, I think we've always taken a look at it.
Yeah, but like in like a legal like appeal setting, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I would reference back, and we will include this in our final recommendations too, this verbiage, but the New Hampshire OPD Planning Handbook, it kind of dictates out outlines really nicely about the site plan review regulations shall include A through E, which does have provision defining the first site plan performance, so kind of water in water drainage. So yes, I'll have to say I will make sure we look at that again and make sure. And site plan reviews may include inadequate drainage concerning blading tube flooding XYZ, and so those are where the boards can do it, right? The statute says you have to do these minimum A through E, but these other ones you may include, and if you include them, to your point, they usually should be referenced and looked at in due diligence.
And the site plan also references some of the zoning regs too.
Yeah.
The old wordage, they know they have to address it.
Mm-hmm.
The new way, they may not find out they have to address it until they get to this point where they're here.
Well, they'll meet
and
with
then
Rob.
it's brought up. Okay.
He's gonna guide them, I would think.
Well,
You'd flag the areas for the property owner that he likely to be encountered in a site plan.
I mean, in terms of standards,
Yeah.
we're not we're not talking about reducing or eliminating the standards in section 5 as it relates to a major site plan, which is where most of this would come into
Right.
effect anyway. We're only talking about potentially figuring out how to streamline that list for the 5 items that fall under a minor review category, most of which are fairly straightforward anyway and may not, home occupations and things along these lines that are in the minor category.
I think it's worth streamlining the list for the minor, because this is, as a homeowner, this is really intimidating. I have to do these 30 different things and be prepared. It gets really intimidating for somebody who wants to build that third apartment, and now, currently in our current stuff, they're in a major site plan review, because they're at 3, if we adjust it to up to 4, but then they're in the minor, but currently you still have to go through this whole list and make sure they meet everything and have a response when somebody asks the question, and it's really intimidating, I think, for a lot of people.
Well, we shouldn't do that. To Eric's point, is I went through all of the, 5.5, and there's actually 4 sections in here which are not even shells. I mean, they're sort of descriptive information. So to reduce that intimidation, or to streamline it, should they even be in here? Should these not be requirements, which means each of the sections would be a shell?
Give me an example.
Example would be for 5.5.7, speed limit reductions will be recommended where deemed necessary, et cetera. 5.5.10 should be. Again, in requirements, you don't use should, you use shall. 5.5.19, adequate aisle widths, raised medians, tractor trailer access, and number of parts to most safe and efficient information into and out of the site. Well, that's information, but it's not a requirement. So that could be, for all intents and purposes, eliminated or put in another annex as information. And 5.5.20 is really a descriptive paragraph without a requirement.
Well, yeah, having never done I don't think many of us have done a complicated full site plan review. Major site plan review. Hurts.
Yeah, but it's been a long time. You know what,
But
like
nothing's-
Jake said, I think, was
Okay,
the
that's
last
pretty
one
complex.
that's.
Yeah.
I do think there's some
And then prior
streamlining
to that
there.
was maybe.
5.5.20 is editorial commentary about the importance of landscaping buffers,
And certainly, like, tractor trailer access will not apply to many minor
Right.
site plans.
Right.
Yeah, I
As an
think,
example of,
Well, it could.
I think there's a balance between not losing what's really important as it relates to minor site plan review and streamlining this list to be as applicable as possible to the 5 use cases that are actually minor reviews.
Well, I mean, at the last line could be something, other information may be required, or requirements.
Yeah, and that
type of
is
thing,
in there for, yeah.
if the board deems it necessary,
Mhm.
just to cover ourselves.
Yeah.
Other items we requested. Yeah.
I think that'll be good, your team will chew on this. We'll come back at a future meeting with some recommendations about what a set of standards might look like for a minor. And, maybe a little bit of tightening even to the major for some of those things like 5.5.20 that are truly editorial in nature and not regulatory in nature. I think there's some cleaning up that can happen even in the major.
And then we'll have the experience of wherever we are in the Laramie review. That's probably going to inform us as to where we've got air kind of problems.
And speaking of that one, the lighting, assuming the lighting plans in some, the full long, their lighting experts were saying that our regs were overkill for their projects, and I think our regs were written more for a commercial, retail business setting, not a
Residential.
not a residential setting.
Mhm.
So if we could have something in there to adjust for that.
Do we have anything, any place else that deals with landscape and buffers and that kind of stuff?
Well, going to,
Your
Well,
zoning
you get into the Route
does
4
in Route 4, in rural, yeah.
In Route 4,
section,
but
yeah,
that's it.
a bit. Yeah. That's the bulk of it right there.
Mhm.
So would we want to put something in the next round of zoning regs? Because I think that kind of buffer is important.
I don't know.
Cluster development does define it.
Again?
Yeah.
Cluster development.
Cluster does, you're right.
Does define it.
Yeah.
There's also 5.3, perimeter. A landscape buffer shall be provided to assure that the development of the project conforms at its boundaries with the character of the adjoining land and its uses. That is a
That's a
shall.
requirement,
That is a
yeah.
shall.
And far
5.3,
more-
yeah.
Far more informative
Yeah,
than 20.
So there is a buffering requirement.
Yeah.
It's just not in
Yeah.
5.5.20.
And I'm a little unclear, because you look at the Route 4 zoning requirements in the zoning ordinance, and there's all kinds of measurements and talks about the sizes of the trees, all that. And then, so those are very specific kinds of things it's saying you gotta do. And you get here, and it's also talking about, in a lot of cases here, very specific things you gotta do. And so where is that specificity supposed to be? Where's it best placed?
Really good question. So
I don't know.
the way one time it was explained to me, and I think I've probably said this, but your zoning ordinance is the law. It says you shall do this, what you're allowed to do and how you're allowed to do it. A little bit descriptive to your point. And that Route 4 is that form-based and a bit more overabundant than the rest of your zoning ordinance. So that is a little more prescriptive than the verbiage is used to in the Enfield ZO. But, and then your site plan regs and your sub-regs are how you apply that law. So you can get a little bit more into the parking, how you're applying it, right? You have to have this, okay, but how are you applying it? And the check of you're ascertaining, again, going back to that the board is ascertaining that its adequate provisions have been made. So not only are you following the zoning ordinance to how many parking spots you're required to have, now we're also looking at how have you implemented that and is it adequate?
Yeah.
So how
That makes sense.
what you need to do for the law and then how.
So here's the other thing that we use this Article 5 for. Or at least it's been our practice for a while, is when we're doing the site plan review, we use it as a script, a checklist. We go 5.1, then we go to 5.2, and so forth down the line. I don't know that this isn't perfect, the way it's laid out. Until we get through Laramie, we won't have any experience with it. But you give some thought to that, maybe?
Like the order of,
Yeah.
yeah, yep.
'Cause it
We can look at
makes sense to
that.
have the groupings the way they are.
We can look at, yeah. Yeah, I think some other site plans do have it, I did notice a little bit different cadence, if you will, right? Like how you run through it, but not far off. But I'm definitely gonna add a note and we'll look at that.
Would it be possible to, when we get the final version of these section 5, to have a separate sheet with almost like a bullet point of just the heading? Okay, lighting, parking, driveway access, curb cut access. So you can just like check off, okay, that was done. When we're going through the whole process of the review process.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
An
You know,
internal
just as
checklist.
as we're talking to the applicant,
Yeah.
going through the review, okay, that's done, that's done,
Yeah,
type of thing. So, because other things get forgotten, dropped and forgot. And then time for a vote, and it's like, oh, we didn't discuss something, or ask about something.
here's an example of, where's that ADA section? Okay, so 5.12, ADA compliance. There's two items there.
Sorry, what, 5 point, I'm sorry.
1, 2.
1, 2.
So when we were talking to Laramie, we were asking about specific, you know, handicap spots and various things like that. And I suggested to them, I don't know if they're gonna do this or not, but, nor whether the rest of the board agrees, but it sure would be great in a big site plan, you know, the board's gonna ask me about ADA compliance, so I'm wondering if this shouldn't say, the applicant shall provide a statement that describes all of their ADA compliance measures that they've incorporated into their plan. So they're basically showing us, telling us what they've done. You know, so that they're saying, well, we're supposed to have, yeah, I get what you're saying, 4 handicap spaces for every 25, and this is where they're at, you know, and this is the chapter and verse of the ADA, that kind of thing.
Just to clarify the minutes, 5.12, not 5.12. There is no 5.12.
5.12, okay.
So on that ADA note, on a completely different subject, 5.12 is essentially duplicative with 5.5.9. So there's another one that probably can just go away, 5.5.9. If we have 5.12, we don't need 5.5.9 because it's the same.
Redundant, totally.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of redundancy that we're finding.
Yeah, so
and that's
any
another one.
obvious
Yeah.
redundancies that
Yeah.
you find in this list helps make the list more streamlined.
Smaller.
Smaller, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we ready for less, oh no, go ahead. I think Tim was, I have a less substantial suggestion, but we should get through all the substantial ones first.
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay.
While it's on your mind.
If you look at, it was actually Nate's comment earlier that made me think about it. If you look at 1.5, applicability, it doesn't actually say when this is applicable. It says 3 possible applications. The actual statement around applicability is up in 1.2, the purpose, where it talks about how this regulation is a guide to the character of non-residential multifamily residential development. That's where it explicitly says, what you're saying, it does not apply to duplexes. It'd be nice if the purpose, if the applicability had a very clear and simple statement that it applies to, you know, multifamily and commercial development. So that when someone looks at applicability, they see where, you know.
So, sorry, yeah, I may have breezed over.
So
The purpose and scope.
Is where it actually
says
actually says what the
Yep.
applicability is.
Yes.
And then you have a section called applicability that doesn't actually say.
It tells you what's not applicable.
Right. When this applies.
I see,
I think
yeah.
it's more,
So the
yeah.
language is there, but it's definitely
Right.
confusing and not easy for someone to read.
You just haven't had practice writing legislation. The object is to confuse.
That's the New Hampshire way. Yes.
Of course,
No, that's a good point, Eric.
the more we start really reading this, we're gonna find more.
No, we are,
Yeah.
and that's my point, I think we need a review of that kind of stuff, where like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, that's, hopefully, your team will be able
Right.
to
And I
catch most of it.
Yeah, and I think what you're, and maybe it's a rewording, and again, I have a note in here, we'll look back at other SPRs, because, so purpose and scope is usually where that is. Applicability is, it is kind of some of that, but it's also, what it's designated is in yours, what's really saying is what your applications are. Your applications are minor or major. And it is saying what's not applicable to, yes.
what I'm getting at is
But
if
I'll look-
is if a layperson wants to read it, and said, does this apply to my project? They're gonna go applicability, and then they're gonna be confused,
Right.
because that's the section they're gonna go to. And rewording that first sentence would, you know, would solve that.
Right, and I think the ones in progress still are the standards. Article 5, as we talked about, the lighting especially, to your point, the lighting is very discombobulated, how it's disjointed and more commercial focused than residential, so clarifying some of that language. And then Article 9, there's an update from the RSA that we just need to like look into a little more, so those are on the docket.
Is there, like, codified guidance on 5.18.3? The plan must provide harmonious and aesthetically pleasing development to the neighborhood and the town, et cetera, et cetera.
It's very, yeah,
Yeah, some deny it on that?
general standards.
Is that close
If
to
you do,
deny?
it's gotta be an airtight listing of reasons why, yeah.
A data center in downtown?
That's enough.
I mean, there is a ton of case law where exactly that type of provision has been adjudicated,
Yeah.
and
I'll look that up. I like looking at that stuff.
yeah, I mean, you could take a look.
Stick them on the heading of, I know it when I see it.
Well, there's the other extreme. I was listening to the broadcast this weekend, various topics on that conference. And one of the municipalities, I can't recall if it was Plymouth or if it was Nashua, they went out and measured windows, heights of windows, heights of peaks, every detail of the house within that neighborhood for its quote-unquote flavor. So that's the other extreme.
Yeah, it sounds like an historic district.
There was, I don't know if that's true or not, Kurt, but it was, the reason for doing it was that it provided very, very detailed specifics for the public. You know, what does constitute a New England flavor within, you know, a small town? And it was to put the numbers to the games so that if somebody asks, well, this is what is that type of construction? Well, it's pretty extreme.
Well, but that is how, like, the Route 4 district came to be. The Route 4 district came to be because the whole town said, we're expanding utilities out to the town line. We don't want a big box strip there. We want something that looks like New England, and that's how you end up with the things like the pitched roof requirement, the fenestration requirement, prescribed buffers, you know.
Setbacks.
Yeah, so, yeah, like that is the, what does New England look like? You end up in those sorts of provisions in the zoning ordinance, and there's a balance to be struck there in terms of flexibility that a landowner or developer has to craft something versus what the community's vision is, and the community's vision, at least at that time for Route 4, was New England. And New England, as defined in that district, is pitched roofs and fenestration and all of those things. You know, that's where you get into that level of detail. But that's the only zone in town that has those types of prescriptions currently.
Anything else thus far? Any other questions for me or for the team that I can bring back?
Look forward to seeing what you come up with. I sure don't.
Well, we just gave you 2 of the 20 items in 5.5. Which can go away.
Strike. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
All
thanks
right.
for coming in.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, good to see you guys too.
All right.
What is your annual second Wednesdays in June?
It being 8:15 and wanting to get out of here sometime around 8:30, I suggest that we put off the rules of procedure review to another time and do the minutes.
David, we have got to move.
That's coming next.
Okay.
Got to what? Move?
Tim has a proposal on how we can move towards redoing the zoning rewrite.
Oh, okay.
And it's not on the agenda, but I told him that he would be able to present his ideas to the board and we would react. But let's do the minutes first because we're a month behind. Let's get rid of April's minutes and then we'll let Tim do his thing.
I have a line to be looked at.
Are we doing April 8th, Linda?
Yes.
Okay.
Line 117. Jason Carter. Yeah.
Four-headed.
I'm not sure I can pronounce a couple of these words, but
He four-arted staff 3 artifacts.
four-eared.
Art of cats.
Is that a new brand of
So maybe you
snowmobile?
forwarded articles?
I think pets. I gave Rob a few pets. No, yeah, I forwarded artifacts.
Artifacts. And artifacts being old ancient things?
So there
Artifacts?
was,
It was articles.
Articles.
You meant artifacts?
no, artifacts.
Artifacts.
So there were, the first thing, if I remember correctly, was the PDF version of the data I presented about the zoning, voting.
Yeah, you blew
statistics.
everyone out of the water with that.
Thank you. And then there were 2 other things that had to do with some software analysis, and I forget what the last one was.
Exhibits might have been.
So if in
Exhibits,
artifacts,
yeah.
we get rid of the C,
What about exhibits?
I like that.
That's a better word.
but it's what he said, so.
Did you call them an artifact in the meeting?
No, it was summarized.
Yeah, I think that's the minute taker's discretion there.
Is her
think
name
that's
AI?
probably speech recognition to text.
All right, and you mean forwarded?
Yeah.
So if the E changes to a W, we have it,
You know, the
and the
word
C goes away?
spell check would have caught this stuff. That,
That's all I saw.
I think line 134, there's another spelling error.
Oh.
Communication.
Communication.
Well, I don't want to go through and pick out spelling errors, but
So the R has to go in that.
That's the Boston pronunciation.
so it's supposed to be the secretary's job, I think, to review these minutes before you even get them. Should I do that?
If you can get them before the meetings, yes.
Happy to send it to you, Tim.
I mean, it just might depend on timing.
Wouldn't
and so
hurt,
forth.
yeah. I mean, generally, the minutes have been pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly, you know, probably some kind of AI that ends up getting human reviewed and you know, occasionally Art of Cats comes out of that, I don't know. But,
I mean, like, she didn't even, not to say she, the AI didn't pick up that whole conversation we had about the ADUs. Didn't even show up in here.
I was kidding. Do we really have AI writing these?
I don't know.
No, it's Wendy
It is, yeah, it's,
Okay.
but she probably uses some kind of software
She's
to
using a
give the starting
transcription
point, yeah.
To start it.
Oh,
No, it's not AI. It's probably a transcription software that gets then reviewed by her in, you know,
That's what I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someday it will be all AI. But first we need data centers.
I'd really like to study these, oh, sorry, we're on April 8th.
we're on,
Make a motion to approve the minutes of April 8th as amended.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor, raise your hands and say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are adopted
7-0.
as amended. Next, minutes of the 22nd of April.
What I was about to say is I would like an opportunity to review these in more detail because we're summarizing basically the hearing here with Laramie.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to be careful that this accurately reflects what was said.
So could we table this until next meeting?
If
In
that's,
order
if
to-
that's a motion and somebody
I'd
seconds
like to make
it.
a motion, based on what Tim says, I agree with him, that we should be sure they're very correct. We table this until next meeting, giving him time to review it. Do I hear a second?
Somebody want to second Linda's motion?
I
Tim?
will.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I wasn't there, but I don't need to abstain from the tabling motion. I don't need to abstain on anything related to it, but I
Okay, so we'll,
vote aye to table.
we'll put these away until the next meeting. And now we can get to Tim's proposal for revising the zoning regs. What's your plan, Tim?
Well, I don't really have a plan per se, it's just, I think we need to, we're at the point where I think we should be able to decide how we're gonna move forward. We've met with the Board of Selectmen, we've had a debrief meeting, and we had a lot of public input. But I'm sure you all been thinking about this, so. And one of the things I keyed on, or I learned, or hung my hat on, whatever, but Ben and also Dan Regan talked about defining what your goals are right off the bat before you get started on anything. And I thought maybe that we ought to review that. For example, goals for rewriting the zoning ordinance would be to reformat the old ordinance to make it easier to read and understand. Is that still a goal?
That is a goal.
Okay. Update poorly worded sections and provisions for
consistency and clarity, is that a goal?
Definitely a
Well,
goal.
you can add on to that and comply with the current RSAs,
I've got that.
okay?
That was number 3. Update the ordinance to reflect changes required by new or newly amended RSAs.
Yep,
Okay. And the last one, or maybe not the last one, but the last one I've got on my list here is move forward with carrying out the recommendations of the master plan, which was the whole point of what, the new districts and everything that we proposed. But in general, are there any other goals that we're trying to achieve here in this process?
I'd like to consider that we do it in smaller bites.
Well, that's
That
the,
it gets
that's the
that has
how.
been suggested.
That's the how part.
Isn't one of the goals to, with the current history of proposals that have come to the board, amending the regulations so that the desirable construction can take place? I'm coming up with a good way to explain, like, I don't know the gentleman's name, but the development that wants to happen on Main Street where the honeybees are. Like, it can't happen right now, then maybe it can, but there are changes to the regulations that would make that easier, and as far as I understand it, everyone I've talked to, in the board, out of the board, or whatever, is generally in approval of that development, but, there's issues.
Got to go for variance.
I think we could say remove obstacles to housing, or we could broaden it to remove obstacles to implementing the master plan, maybe?
I mean, isn't
That could be
it
anything.
encompassed in the master plan bullet?
It
though?
is.
Like, the master plan sets out what we're looking for, right?
Yes. That's why
So just implementing the.
Just
master plan.
implement the master plan, right? We
got that.
get that if we implement the master plan.
Okay.
What I believe might have been part of the problem with the previous proposal is that it was too big of an area.
Well, hang on, you're getting into specifics here. We're just talking about the big goals that we're looking for.
Okay, well, okay, my point is that the goal should be, say, make it increase density or make it less restrictive to build in the core downtown area.
Which is, it's in the master plan, dozens of times, it says that very, very language.
Okay.
So
And what
if our goal is just to carry out the recommendations of the master plan, then we'll get there. I don't think we have to restate that here. Although, I do think we ought to have a summary of all the recommendations of the master plan as a separate document. In fact, I've already got it, and that's about 4 pages long, summarizing those 2
Okay.
big chapters. Anyway, so any big other broad goals that we're trying to accomplish here?
Good.
Okay. So, methodology. So we've got to come up with a zoning ordinance at the end of the day, 2027, for people to vote on. I think there are 3 approaches to this. One, we could leave the ordinance as it is, just same format, and continue to make amendments to it as we have been doing. The pros on that, it's simple to do in the short term, but if any major changes are to be proposed, it gets really difficult. Which leads into the cons, the other cons. It leaves the ordinance in a formatting mess. So if you wanted to create a whole new district, such as the Route 4 or downtown or the infill village, or anything else we might propose, it would be it would be really, really difficult to get it to look like we'd want it to look and still keep with this same format. Inserting land use tables, for example, you'd have to rewrite so much of the ordinance, you might as well just rewrite the ordinance. And it just puts off this job of reformatting to it. All to say, I don't think this is a good approach. What do you guys think?
You don't think what's a good approach?
To just stick with the old ordinance and just amend it.
I think you should have the first article be the reformat with no other changes, and then have contingent articles.
But getting there. The second option, the second big option, would be to take the same approach as we did last year. Propose a whole new ordinance, but with updated provisions to satisfy the majority of voters that we need to get it passed. We probably all got ideas about what we might want to change to make it more palatable to people, more acceptable. Now, the pros of this is we already have the framework in place. We just need to make some key changes and satisfy the criticism. Many voters are already familiar with what we proposed, so that might make things easier to explain. And nothing we might change from last year's proposal would likely cause a supporter, someone who voted for it last year, to change their mind. So in other words, we probably wouldn't lose votes. We would gain votes if we did that. Now, the cons on that is that this is still large and complicated. And if it didn't pass, we're back to where we started.
Well, we can do formatting and don't need a town meeting vote for that.
Yes, you do. And the reason I say that is I looked into that. I took a second look at everything, and there's just way too many changes we need to make to get it into the new format. I mean, because I did it, I wrote every word. I know exactly where this stuff is, you know, what you have to do to get it into that new format. And I just don't think you could do that. Now, third option would be to reformat the ordinance. This is what you guys were talking about, I think. Reformat the ordinance completely. Make only minor tweaks for readability, consistency, and maybe include some non-controversial minor changes.
Don't do that. Because you don't know what's controversial and what's not. That's the thing.
The kinds of things we talk about would be pretty evident.
Right.
Yeah.
Like updating a law, like
what?
updating to meet a new law.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Would be a
update provisions that
non-controversial
may be
change.
affected
Yeah.
by RSAs. And then any major changes we wanted to make, we do via separate warrant articles. So the pros of this, there's a very good chance the reformatted ordinance would pass. I don't think the kinds of objections you might find, yeah, a dozen people might object, but you know, we're gonna be good.
So Tim, that's a reformat of the old ordinance?
Yes.
Thank you.
If passed, we'd have a much better document to work with going forward. Then the separate warrant articles, be it a village district or Route 4, whatever, they could be debated on the pros and cons of that particular measure. And again, we already have the frameworks of many of that in place. So the cons of that is if the reformatted ordinance didn't pass, but one or more of the separate articles passed, well, you can see the complication there. So we need to word those articles carefully so that they could still go into effect in the old ordinance.
If it's actually contingent, though, I think legally, like,
It
correct
wouldn't
me on
be.
this, it wouldn't be?
No. For instance, you could have an ordinance, a warrant article that says reformat the old ordinance. Great. Would you, and the other, another article could say, shall we do away with the Route 4 district as described in whatever chapter and verse, and substitute it with the following. and then you'd have the new Route 4, what we wanted to say. So that if the only thing passed was that Route 4 piece, we could go back into this old ordinance and, to your point, change some chapter numbers and things to make it fit. That's okay.
It is?
It is. You can do that.
Doesn't the article word, however you say it, on the ballot, doesn't it have to say change section blah 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 to?
I always thought that too, but no, it really doesn't. This was the first time last year we had a complex document to present to the town, and actually the warrant article was only 3 or 4 sentences. Yeah. Now, the warrant could get lengthy if we had too many so we're gonna have to pick and choose what's the highest priority if we did it that way. 3 or 4 articles maybe, in addition to the Reform Act. And despite all of that, some might consider that whole process too damn confusing. Yeah, so
I like the fact that it breaks it down into discrete units.
Can I pose a
Fourth item?
3A or 3B or whatever? And I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud here. What if we just formatted and did the minor changes this year, the non-controversial changes, and did the substantive changes next year? And the only reason I would suggest that is I think the whole zoning discussion leading up to this year's meeting was largely influenced by the existence of Laramie Farms as an active application here. Laramie Farms is still an active application here. The public psyche about everything that this board is doing is largely focused on Laramie Farms right now, and probably will be that way for the next few months. It has been extremely difficult to get the public to think about substantive zoning changes separate and distinct from the Laramie Farms application, and I'm not sure that that dynamic is going to change in the coming months. It is still an active application here. Is this the time, with that going on and the experience that we saw last year, to bring proposals back? If we brought any proposal back that was substantive, I think it would be, probably should be, a smaller portion of the overall bigger picture that we proposed last year, maybe just the downtown area. But if there is a goal of reformatting the ordinance, all of the things that we discovered while we were going through it, why does the CI have this and not this, and all of these kind of changes and streamlining, which I think would be pretty non-controversial overall, probably would pass with a large percentage of the population voting for it, and gives us a cleaner document to work from moving forward.
Well, on top of that, or in addition to that, is we're gonna be tied up with Laramie Farms on a lot of meetings. Are we gonna have even the bandwidth, if you wanna call it that, to work on a major zoning changes?
Well, we're still gonna do, first meeting of the month is work session, where we can work on zoning changes and site plan changes. Second meeting of the month is hearings. And if there's time left over, we can, work on these other things.
Yeah, I mean, we said that last year too, and just things just.
I mean, we kept, I thought we kept to it pretty well.
I can't tell you what's gonna happen a year from now, as far as the town, Laramie Farms being a big portion of it. I like option 3. I think that gives us a great building block, whether it's a 3, a 3A, or a 3B option. But I think getting that to a readable, workable document, I think, should be upfront. Small changes, and make them a separate warrant article, small things, I think we get somewhere.
If we look at who voted yes and no, it wasn't that far apart.
67 votes.
And the fact is that you've got momentum going on this revision. I think the revision has a lot of value to it. Was the mistake that we made, and this again came out of listening all Saturday to this conference, we just didn't present it enough to the public. That point was made from both small town and large town discussions on zoning that was part of this video conference. There was, and I believe it was Nashua, who did, like we did, a major revision of their zoning ordinance. They had something on the order of 16 hearings and or meetings with the public strictly on that zoning ordinance. It's like, oh, how many did we have here for this? They were very intent on making sure the public was on board. And if the difference was 67 votes, I don't think we did a bad job separating Laramie Farm from the zoning ordinance. I think we can do that. Like you said, David, you know, the way we separate our meetings. So I worry that, you know, with the momentum we have going for us right now with the current revision, that maybe we just need to tweak how we engage the public in terms of getting it over that top so that it gets approved. But the key that kept coming up time and time again in these discussions was presenting it to the public. And it was interesting because they talked about breaking it up, and I think Plymouth broke it up. But they said there's a danger to breaking it up, and that you repeat the same thing that happened to the zoning ordinance over the last 40 years. It ends up a patchwork, it ends up with redundancies, missed points, where if you're doing it like we did it this past year, you're comprehensively looking at it so that you decrease the risk, you don't eliminate it, you decrease the risk of those defects in the zoning ordinance. And that was the point that was made. And I thought it was very interesting for a historical purpose, why our zoning ordinances are like this. Because they were developed in the 70s and 80s. This is not me, this is Ms. Barrett from Barrett Consulting, in which she said, it's because the goal was to stop housing in the 70s and 80s. It was, and we've completely turned it around now. Mm-hmm. And so that's why a lot of these zoning ordinances just seem so out of whack. They were patchwork together to prevent housing. And now we're trying to switch it around. And to be honest, again, to close out, I thought we did a good job last year. I think we have some momentum to keep going. That's my opinion.
I agree, Paul, that I think the weakest part of our endeavor was public engagement. And, you know, there are a few reasons for that. Lack of time being one of the major ones, because we didn't finish up our work until, what?
Nick of time.
December?
Right.
November, December?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, Laramie, people conflating Laramie with zoning is something that was an obstacle that nobody could have foreseen.
And when does that become not an obstacle? I almost think that would you wouldn't be able, it wouldn't be an obstacle once it was built, people were living there and people actually saw what was happening.
If they liked it.
Yeah, that's the only way you're gonna determine if you like it or not,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, that could
Depends how
be
it's
2
gonna
or 3
impact their
years.
daily lives.
Yeah, we're
Whether they
talking,
can drive somewhere and get there in a reasonable amount of time. And if it has a positive or negative or no impact at all, is what's gonna make their decisions on that.
Sure.
So probably not till it's done.
So that's like 3-4 years.
I don't know what the right amount of time is, but it was an active application in phase 2, leading all the way up to, you know, the town meeting, or the SB2 vote.
Yeah.
And now it's an active application and final review. That is a focus of the public as it relates to this board, and it will be the commentary that we get. It was the commentary that we got at deliberative session.
I voted against Laramie Farms.
People get up and they say, I'm against the zoning proposal because Laramie Farms is coming. And I don't think that's going away while Laramie Farms is still an active application in front of the board. It's just my perspective.
I think to Tim's point, though, it's not gonna go away while it's under construction either.
Yeah.
Like, that's, if they move forward, that will be a project in town for the next 10 years.
So how about a compromise? What if we go with option 3, which is we present a reformatted ordinance with minor changes to the public, and we work on what we think are the priority additional 3 articles, additional 3 revisions, work on those over the course of the summer. And we make a decision about whether or not to bring those forward or not sometime in the fall. So if we feel good about it, maybe Laramie Farms has been approved at that point, and it's less than it, or maybe not, I don't know.
I think if we go that route, we would have to make our decision in early fall, say September, because if we're going to make that decision and proceed with trying to sell it to the public, we're gonna need September, October, November, December. We're gonna need a lot of time to engage with the public.
And if we get to September and we don't feel like we've got that time, then we just won't advance all 4 of those additional articles, and we only go with 2 of them, or 1 of them.
Like I said, it wasn't a big gap. I think a lot of it was misinformation. Like they said, they had 16 meetings, was it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many we have, if the same people show up to those meetings, the people that still think that they were voting against Laramie Farms, how do we get the word to them? I guess is the big part of it. The people that don't bother going to those events, they're hearing things 3rd, 4th, 5th hand. Those are the ones we gotta try to figure out how to reach. And give them the right information.
And I thought Tim, at the deliberative session, got up in front of, a couple hundred people, which is not just the usual suspects that come to many meetings in town, but a larger group of people, and walked through in a intelligent and well thought out way what the proposal was and why it was proposed that way.
But I think what happened was of the 120 people that might have been
Still there,
probably 100 of them were bent towards voting no.
Maybe, but it was the biggest group of people that you were gonna find in a single room, right?
Exactly, and so we're gonna have, whatever we do to go forward here, we're gonna have to sell something, and how we do that, we've got time to think about that. The reason I wanted to get a rough decision made here, a broad decision about which one of these 3 options or versions we were going to move forward with is, in order to do that, and this is the proposal, I suppose, I think we need a work group, and I'll be happy to chair it, whatever you call it, work group, committee, probably work group, of 3 people, 3 zoning board members or alternates, to do the background stuff
You guys, as a board, we decide the broad, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna propose a downtown district, and these are the broad parameters that we wanna have in there. Then this work group will take that and actually come up with the words to put down on paper. Bring back to you and say, okay, is this what you meant? Is this what we wanna do? Otherwise, we do not have time at these meetings to wordsmith stuff like that.
Is there an option under 3, for instance? Because some of the feedback we heard was, it's too much. 3 districts, it's too much. We can't, it's too much for the public to comprehend. What if 3 was the complete reformatting with just downtown? Just the downtown area?
But we're changing.
What's the downside of that?
We're proposing changing district boundaries. And you can't deal with just downtown because it interfaces with the other 2 districts.
Right. No, it's just everything outside that line stays the same.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'd almost have to do Route 4 and downtown. I have been thinking about this and looking at the way the map's laid out, but one of the things I figured we'd probably do if we wanted to propose the village district again, would be to shrink it to just those areas that are served by town sewer. So that pulls it down, further down Maple Street, May Street, out Route 4, it doesn't get into Anderson Hills, that stays all R1 kind of thing like that. But I think we could do that easily enough, but for the boundaries of Route 4 and downtown need to be defined to anchor all of that. And it's better explained if I had a map to show you what I'm talking about, but.
So as a plan, do we want to make the next 3 work sessions around each of those districts? June is one of the districts, July is the other, August is the third. And then we'll work through all 3, and then in September, we'll be sort of ready to make that decision of what did we work through and what do we want to finalize and put forward.
Yeah, we could do that.
This is as a method of.
It makes sense for scheduling,
Of working through everything that we proposed last year, then using what we did before to make an informed decision, and those discussions each time will be, are these boundaries correct? Are the proposed changes correct? Are the this, that, the other,
Since it's 3, the idea would still be to have the separate voting just for the reformatting, right?
Well, I think what we're saying is we have the discussions over the course of the summer, and then we make the decision about how we're going to actually. Is it going to be part of the reformat? Some of it's going to be separate. We're not going to have any separate at all.
I'm confused. I'm not confused. I'm concerned that you're starting to make the pile bigger, and that's what we did before. And I think you should have the reformatting be its own thing. And then those other things you're looking at, whichever ones you choose, decide on them, but keep the reformatting its own, because it needs to get done.
It needs to get done.
And I think if you attach just this one to it,
Right.
I think you're going to trigger people thinking you're trying to sneak something in on them.
Strongly agree.
Linda, are you suggesting that we just do reformatting this year?
No, I'm suggesting that you don't add anything else, that since we can go ahead, have that be its own article or reformat what we can reformat without an article, and get that done, and break these issues into small pieces. So if someone objected to one of them, they haven't voted down all of them.
Yeah. Isn't that what we're talking about? I mean, that's the way,
Well, but
that's the way I'm interpreting the conversation.
Well, Nate's got a different version.
Yeah, Nate,
No,
you added,
I didn't mean to imply that I was suggesting that those two should be on the same thing.
well,
My
I'm
suggestion
sorry,
was,
that's what I heard.
yeah, no, let me clarify. I guess what I was kind of suggesting was the reformatting be its own article, but just
Yes.
one other option.
Wait a minute, you added one other option?
Yes.
To the formatting?
No.
No.
Oh, in addition?
Yes.
Aha.
And that being-
Not 3 or 4?
No. And that
Okay.
being downtown, rather than 3 other additional kind of
And
considerations.
Nate, I'm completely with you on that. It's just that I think we should, to the extent we can, work on the other 2 sections and make this decision about which of the 3, all 3, or one of them, or 2 of them, get advanced. Make that decision in the fall.
I'm open to that.
I can't, I don't know, I can't get around doing it that way. First of all, if you do a reformat, are we confusing the public? Well, first you presented me this major zoning ordinance change. Well, now you're gonna just change grammar and formatting. But whatever happened to all that stuff you're doing in the village and in the R4 district, et cetera, et cetera? If you continue with the process that we had, which was only down by 67 votes, and enforce that and present it to a greater degree to the public, will we be able to enforce that change and get the 67 votes? Again, it's the momentum we have going right now with this current zoning ordinance. It's in people's faces now. They may not like it, but that may have been just misinformation or not a very good job of presenting it to the public. I hate to miss that part of it and then have to regress for now what would be, 2 or 3 more years to implement what was a heck of a lot of work, and I thought it came out very well.
So the problem that I think is with that strategy is, in order for that to work, you have to make the assumption that the public voted on this information, not that the public voted because they didn't like it.
I don't agree with that.
Well, if you allow for the public just simply not liking it, and you continue to try to say, this is what it is, educate, educate,
I think we know why they didn't like it.
I don't think you do.
Well,
Jason, you had put out a survey
Yeah.
a month or so ago, trying to correlate,
So I can talk about that project if you want me to take time to do it.
do you think that would be helpful to this discussion?
It is a tool that we can use. So my plan. So the reason I sent out the survey the way I did, it was a gauge to see, can I reach people that will poll in a similar manner as to the vote? And the answer is yes. Rob, if you bring up, can you bring up EnfieldNHzoning.org? So the result was what you're about to see. It was very similar percentage-wise to the actual vote. So I've been picking away at this at night, and my goal with this is to, you see the results at the bottom there. My goal with this is to be able to create a space where people can electronically interact about specifics in terms of, what do they want to vote for in the future. An example would be the thing about number of primary dwellings on a lot. There would be a poll, there would be information, there'd be examples, pros and cons, a discussion board below that, and then they'd be able to change their vote throughout a month's period of time or something like that, where they'd be able to respond to the poll. And that would give us a sense of what, I'm hoping, it would give a sense of what people actually want, don't want, there's a component of it that I also want to have in here where people can actually submit their own polls that I would, work with them on formatting the information page. And I think I also need to mention this in a public context. This is a private website, owned, operated by me. All decisions about it go through me and not through the town. So there's no right to free speech or whatever.
Yeah, so Jason, your sample is extremely small. And is the ratio of yes to no similar to the actual ratio
Very
of
close.
yes to no?
Yep. And it remained, I was watching it as it went, and it remained close as it went. And the people that clicked on this, they clicked on a link in a listserv email from an unknown person, the people don't know who I am. So I think that if this works out over time, we could build usage in the town by advertising it.
And so the reason I think we already know what we need to change to get those 67 votes is because you just tally up everything that was said and written as a criticism. And you say to yourself, okay, which of those items am I going to die on the hill for, and which of the items are just, for now, it's fine. Example, housing density in the village. Well, just reformat the orders, create the village district, and just leave it at a quarter acre per house for now. A year or two later, you got one simple warrant article that asks to increase that housing density from, to go to maybe what we had before. And then you get just one little thing you're focused on. Ask the question. So if we create the village and it's not significantly different at all from what the R1 has, it just sets us up to do more, and I think we can actually make it better. I think we'd include things in there that address that rural village character issue. Minor little things, but they don't have to be major, because the existing ordinance has none of it. There's no protections at all in terms of village character. So, so in a way, Paul, I'm completely with you, but I'm also just trying to be realistic about what we can ask the people to do at any one given year. I made that mistake already.
Well, I mean, to me, as a board, the highest priority is the reformatting. It makes our life so much easier.
I've heard that since I started, even before the meetings I came to beforehand. I didn't interrupt you, but
No,
that's one thing I kept hearing.
Yeah. And the other thing just what reminded me of a thought I had previous, after the vote, after the article got voted down, I mean, you keep telling people that it's what you proposed or what we proposed in the zoning change was very similar to the density that's currently allowed. But what people don't understand is that when the regs say quarter acre per house, they think one house, one lot. The way the zoning change and the way we as a board even interpret it is that 1 acre, 4 houses, 4 units. They don't see that. That's not in their mind. They see one structure, 1 unit, one lot.
That gets back to Paul's point about educating the public / marketing the thing.
Yeah, but if they don't want that kind of density, well, multi-units on quarter acre, it's gonna be known no matter what.
Well, but you've got, I mean, that's what's on the ground in a lot of, in a lot of our buildings in the downtown and the village area.
Kurt, I think if we just stuck with the quarter acre as the minimum lot size, and made one dwelling unit per quarter acre as the housing density limit, but we got rid of the one principal building on a lot. Right? That's the only thing we changed, really. I think we would have been fine with the ordinance. I really do. Easy to understand, we're not really changing things seriously. And then a couple of years later, we could go back and say, all right, let's increase the housing, or let's propose to increase the housing density, see what folks think about it.
I think what you're saying, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think what you're saying is, let's test, let's try, see what people want, which I fully agree with. What I want to caution against is...
I'm more inclined to want to do that as a separate article.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. As much as I'd like to.
Yeah.
Right, I don't think we should just take what was done last year and just try to market it more, is what I'm saying, which is not what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying.
Two things. One, for the sake of process, we don't need to get into like individual details of quarter acre versus eighth acre versus half acre tonight. And I do want to say, like, we need to be very careful about taking an individual's personal project as data beyond the anecdotal site. I mean, he's very clear, he's doing this on his own, that's no problem. But we need to be very, very careful not to treat it any differently than we would any other just sort of anecdotal statement, particularly for online surveys, which are totally unvetted and not public from the planning board standpoint. So anything that the planning board would view as official really needs to come from the board. So saying that, and are we? I'm looking at the 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
and I haven't been home yet today, and I'm on my third town meeting of the day. Are we ready to just pick one of the 3 zones to do at our work session next time to get ourselves rolling?
I think downtown is a
that's
great
fine.
starting point. I think it's the least controversial, perhaps, of the 3 that we're talking about. And, that's as good a place to start as any.
Well, to get to that point, we need this work group put together. Because we're not gonna have anything to bring you if we don't.
Who would like to work with Tim?
I see Jason.
I'm gonna be gone for the next
Who else wants to work
4
with Tim?
weeks.
Just to,
Bill, Paul? Would you be willing to work on this working group with Tim to get something ready for a month from now?
Okay.
All right.
question, so that means we can freely communicate with each other outside
Yeah.
of the meeting
Yeah,
via
this is
email?
on
And you
for
can,
your less.
and you can get together. I mean, like, if you guys want to go get coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, do it.
Sounds good.
Tom won't pick up your coffee tab.
Yeah.
What you can't do is copy any of us on your.
Thank you, Renee.
And
Take care.
And who knows, we might even convince Jason to make this a planning board project.
I just want to make it
Yeah, no, I.
clear to everybody that when an individual,
Right now, it isn't.
right now it is not, and it,
I appreciate the clarification.
no,
It is good for me to have that cleared.
Okay.
Trustee job.
I'm gonna move, I think, to adjourn the meeting here at 9:09.
Okay,
Can I
9:08.
ask 2 more questions?
make them,
They're very quick.
wait, we have.
There's a
go
motion
ahead,
to
go
adjourn
ahead,
on the
quickly,
table.
Quickly,
We need Rob here.
why do we need Rob?
Well, so here's my question. Is Verdantis hard at work on reviewing the Laramie
Yes.
proposal?
Yes.
Yes.
And their timetable is for our second meeting to have their work done.
Okay. And did the summary of what we asked them to do get
Yes.
sent to them? Can we get copies of them?
Copies of that list?
Yes.
I will ask
Not the
Rob,
list you made, but the list that,
the list that Rob sent out?
yes.
Sure.
Okay.
I will ask Rob to get that out. In addition, Gwen Desert gave Rob a very extensive one-page list of her concerns. And I looked it over and I asked Rob to include that with task 1. So they should be addressing that as well. I had asked Rob to have copies of Gwen's one-pager for tonight. Apparently,
Well,
he
let's,
didn't do
let's
it.
send it digitally anyway.
What?
Send it digitally. That's-
Yeah.
that's-
I will speak with Rob tomorrow and hopefully we'll get it.
Thank you.
Motion on the table is to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All opposed, stick
Abstentions.
around.
All right. People, thank you. This has been a very productive meeting.
So
Thank you
Nate,
for your hard work.
I looked at that.
It's recorded.
Well, I'll just wait to hear from your team and get together, talk about stuff.
You already got it?
Okay.
You don't want to stay with this?
You buying coffee?